In this video, I will show you the effectiveness of all shotguns in Warframe and highlight the ones I recommend. I have already made a video for rifles and I will make separate videos for bows, snipers, and AoE weapons in the future. Pay attention that this video is for pre-Steel Path content and what you unlock via Steel Path will not be present here. For example, weapon arcanes and the Incarnate adapters are not included here. I recommend you watch the explanation section, but if you don't want to, here are the timestamps. But don't blame me if you don't understand anything. Every test result in this video will look something like this. Here we have weapon name, headshot or body shot, and then all the active fire modes. These are the equipped mods, and then we have this chart that shows us the kill times of each faction in each test group. And this is what each test group consists of. Then we have the consistency column, which tells us how consistent the results were. The closer to 100, the better. And if they are small numbers or in the negatives, that means the kill times are pretty inconsistent. In the bottom right, we have the level of enemies we tested against, the number of times the tests were repeated, as well as the sum, which is the addition of normal and heavy kill times of all three factions. The smaller the sum is, the better the performance, and minimum sum is the minimum possible sum with the current targeting delay. Standard targeting delay is 0.5 seconds and a full test has 72 enemies, which makes the minimum sum 36 seconds. This was added to fix the false gap between auto and semi-auto weapons that happened because real players are not aimbots. Though keep in mind that minimum sum assumes a lack of AoE elements, so with those it is possible to go even lower. This is an example of how I will show you the test results for each mastery rank. The weapons will be sorted by their sum, so the better ones are on top. The weapons I recommend will be highlighted green and the partial recommendations will be light purple. The green ones are good enough to be worth investing Catalyst and Forma in, but don't invest in the light purple ones. They are temporary weapons until you can get something better at a higher mastery rank. For early game shotguns that get partial recommendations and aren't worth investing into, as a general rule of thumb, put a build like this on them. Basically just base damage, reload, and an elemental 90 mod. It doesn't make a difference which of the 4 elements you go for since they all perform about the same. And if you're wondering where to get chilling reload from, it can be acquired from nightmare missions which look like this. I won't show the min-max builds for weapons that are not highlighted, so if you want to see those, you can find them in the Discord server in this channel here. Just search the weapon's name and you'll find the builds. In pursuit of fairly comparing all weapons, I decided to test all weapons on equal footing against level 100 enemies. While you wouldn't really use an MR5 weapon against level 100 enemies, it is a good idea to do it this way since we can see how good a weapon can become with proper investment. And you may notice that for partial recommendations, the level of enemies in the footage I will show you will follow this chart. But this is only to prevent the footage from becoming too long and the tests stay at level 100. Now let's talk about the test results, starting with Mastery Rank 0 through 4. Up to Mastery Rank 4, there is only one shotgun per rank with the exception of MR3 which doesn't have any, and each one is better than the last so they all get partial recommendations. MK1 Strong is the first shotgun you can get your hands on, and since it is a credit weapon, you can just grab it, no crafting required. It is a bit slow and it definitely feels clunky with the long reload, but the per hit damage output is quite decent for enemies you'll face at this level. If you use your melee or pistol for trash mobs, this can easily take care of the heavier units for you. This is the base version of Strong. Even though it isn't an MK1 variant, you can still buy it with credits, no crafting required. In terms of stats, it is almost a direct upgrade with more multi-shot, fire rate, and base damage. But bafflingly enough, it has lower crit damage? Don't get me wrong, you won't be doing that many crits anyway, but why would the MK1 variant, which is pretty much the demo version of this weapon, have better crit damage? It makes no sense. Unlike the last two shotguns, Board doesn't punish you for adding magazine mods by increasing the reload time, and the fire rate and reload are respectable enough to take care of trash mobs too, no melee or pistol needed. So all in all, it is a solid upgrade. Heck is one of those weapons that every player has some fond memories of. It is the first shotgun you get that gives you the feeling that you can just point this at something, and the second you pull the trigger they get erased from existence entirely. It is a fun time for sure, even if it is a tad on the slower side. If you're wondering where to get Scattered Justice, it is a Steel Meridian augment. Just open 2 or 3 relics and sell the prime parts, and that should be enough platinum to trade for it, since you won't be getting to rank 4 of Steel Meridian this early on. Mastery Rank 5. We have some pretty decent weapons here, but all that aside for a second, you know how high MR weapons generally perform way better than low MR ones? Like an MR11 Warframe will obviously perform better than an MR5 comb, right? The thing is, yeah. While it is true that this result is only paper performance given that this weapon is hella inaccurate and this assumes full headshots, that is also the case for Warframe, as it is also an incredibly inaccurate weapon, so this is very much so an apt comparison. In fact, I was so surprised by Comb's results that I thought I made a mistake somewhere and had my calculator and data triple checked, and still couldn't believe it and went and timed the test in game. But heck, it is true, it really is ridiculous. A weapon with good fire rate, an unbelievably large magazine, and somehow a tiny reload that also has above average styles chance, solid base damage and multi-shot, and even has some crit potential thanks to an above average crit damage, does not belong in MR5, but it somehow is in fact an MR5 weapon. Mastery Rank 7. Oh, let me tell you something. Every time I skip over Convectrix, there's always at least one guy in the comments talking about how it can do like a bazillion slash procs. Don't get me wrong, it can do a lot of slash procs, but that alone isn't enough to make a weapon good. Let me make it more obvious. MK1 Strawn has a raw base damage per second of 374, Sobek has 875, and Comb has over 1300. And for our lovely Convectrix, that value is at a measly 288. No matter how many slash procs you do, it is not enough to compete. At the end of the day, Convectrix has a total kill time of 65.35 seconds. It isn't bad per se, but it also isn't the gift of God to mankind that some claim it to be. But heck, if all you care about is big slash number, go for it. It certainly has that. Sobek is one of those weapons with multiple build styles. This is the base performance with no augments added. To be honest though, this dual fire rate build barely even feels like a shotgun. Makes you feel like you're using a rifle. It may not be the honorable way of using a shotgun, but the magnetic procs make up for it. This is the clip delegation build. You'll notice a big jump in performance after the first reload since that's when the augment activates. It increases this weapon's multi-shot to 27 when the base is only 5. And that's on top of the insane status chance. An average hit causes 17 status effects. Any enemy that isn't dead on the first shot will get annihilated soon after. Finally, we have the Acid Shell build. This particular build scales primarily off of enemy density, so missions like Survival are its specialty, since it converts enemy health into AoE damage. But as a result of this, taking this to say an Extermination will prove quite disappointing, so stick with the high density missions for this one. Just for fun, this is what happens when you're not fighting highly armored units. I feel like it speaks for itself. Mastery Rank 8. If we're talking about classic shotguns that feel awesome to use, Corinth and Exorgis in this Mastery Rank fit the bill perfectly. But unfortunately, they're both way too slow to deal with hordes of enemies, so they are not particularly competitive. But if you want to have a fun time, give them a try. See how you feel. Xikto is another weapon that scales primarily off of enemy density. It feels awesome in survival and much worse but still pretty good in extermination. This is all because applying status effects with the alt fire is not optional. It is absolutely necessary. The first clip was with default energy color and this one is with black energy color. You can use whichever you like, but I'll stick with the second one. Mastery Rank 9. If you haven't seen the Forbidden Warframe knowledge video, you may be wondering why a weapon with a sum of 58 is being recommended. But don't worry, you won't be wondering for long. Phantasma is a deceiving weapon. Only when you see someone use it do you realize how it is meant to be used. Suffice to say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It also has an alt fire, but honestly you shouldn't bother with it. It pales in comparison to the primary fire. If the primary fire did not have infinite body punch through, then maybe this might have had a role, but as is, it is not worth using at all. Pay attention that this weapon has 50% skip, so you should only shoot enemies until they reach half health, and let the damage over time take care of the rest. Mastery rank 10. Back when I first started playing, Arcoplasmor was unbelievably popular. And I gotta admit, even today it isn't terrible, it just struggles with heavy units. And also suffers from the fact that you can get Tenet Arcoplasmor before you get the base version. So that's why it isn't green here. Mastery rank 11. Another mastery rank without any recommendations. With a weapon as unique as Phage, I would usually tell you to give it a shot, but in this case, it is unique simply because it is really annoying to use. But hey, that's how you get a 5 out of 5 Riven Dispo, so it might be worth trying for someone out there. It just so happens that someone is not me. Mastery rank 12. We finally have a shotgun to talk about, so let's get into it. Vapor Hack is simply a classic shotgun. You point it at something and they fall over dead. It's loud, it's powerful, and it gets the job done. Is it the best shotgun out there? No. Is it worth trying? Absolutely. Pay attention that counterbalance is really necessary in this build. Without it, you can't use the maximum fire rate very easily since the recoil will get in the way. Mastery rank 13. How the mighty has fallen. Tigris Prime used to be everywhere, but nowadays it stays in people's inventories as a relic of a bygone era. However, the same cannot be said about Bubonico. Bubonico is a powerful weapon, but its battery weapon status is severely holding it back. If you didn't know, battery weapons have some major trouble improving their ammo economy. Which is to say, you can't really reduce the reload by much, and if you increase their magazine size, the reload time will also increase. But it is still a fun weapon, so you should at least give it a try. Mastery rank 14. We have a little bit of everything in this mastery rank. We have the most powerful shotgun in the form of Felorx Incarnon, we have the most scaling one being Phantasma Prime with the infinitely scaling heat procs, and some classic and fun choices too, like Corinth Prime. Take your pick. Phantasma Prime is basically just Phantasma. The devs knew full well that they cannot and should not increase its stats. Like at all. The only thing they changed was crit stats from basically 0 to just barely not 0, and 4 extra meters of range. In other words, these two weapons are basically the exact same thing. You don't have to farm the Prime. Base Phantasma is just fine. Oh, and this also has the alt-fire, and they didn't change anything about it. If they were gonna improve an aspect, this is what needed an improvement, not the main fire. For Felorx Incarnon, the basics are: get some headshots, activate the Incarnon form, and go to town. This is the minimum guaranteed performance you can expect. Before I continue, have a look at this. This is the main reason that Felorx is so unbelievably powerful. When reloading, you get 10% extra fire rate per shell. However, that's not really how it works. In reality, it isn't about reload necessarily, it is about an increase in current magazine, and the reset to the fire rate buff only happens when the reload process starts. Thus, if you can increase the current magazine without ever reloading, then you can increase the fire rate bonus as much as you want. So here's what you should do. First, just do a normal reload for the initial 6 stacks. Then in the next magazine, get at least 1 headshot and activate the Incarnon form before you run out of magazine. When you deactivate the Incarnon form, you'll see your magazine is full again, but the buff never got reset. You get the idea. It's just a rinse and repeat. As long as you don't start a reload, you're gonna keep your stacks. But in an actual mission, don't worry too much about the stacks. Keep a few, but don't obsess over it. It isn't that important. Just 6 stacks are enough to make this the most powerful shotgun already. And if you're curious how far you can take it, here is 31 stacks. Any more than this becomes quite unwieldy. The evolution perks are left to right, so number 1 is the left option. You know what, I'll just show it to you. Mastery rank 15. There's only one shotgun here, so let's get into it. Normally, I would tell you that so-and-so stats are better in the Prime, but in this case, the opposite is more useful. Xikto Prime has better values in all stats, except for magazine size and crit damage. So yeah, it is a worthwhile upgrade. And as usual, the first one was with default energy color, and this one is with black energy color. Honestly, this feels less like a shotgun and more like a machine gun at this point. Mastery rank 17. From here on out, weapons will have progenitor bonuses, so pay attention to the element and percentage shown in the bottom left under the weapon name. And try focusing on the test results rather than the footage, as not all weapons have the highest bonus or the correct elements. As for the weapons here, Coda Bubonico is decent and you should give it a try too. It isn't too bad, if anything, it's a fun time. For the short duration before the reload starts, that is. This shotgun is literally the old Arcoplasmor when it was super popular before the E took away its headshots. Because guess what? This weapon's primary fire can headshot. Let me tell you, it's one hell of a good time. This weapon also has an alt fire and a gimmick. The alt fire is mainly to apply status effects since it doesn't benefit from multi-shot, but it is pretty good at opening enemies to mercy finishers, and if you use the alt fire while aiming at an enemy open to mercy finisher, you'll teleport and mercy kill him. This also gives you 100% extra damage and multi-shot for 20 seconds. Honestly, I have no idea how this can be allowed after they nerfed the Arca and any similar weapons to the ground. From here on out, you may notice that on most weapons I show separate builds for toxin and non-toxin variants of the same weapon. And if I only show one build, that means the build is the same for all elements. Kuva and Tenet. I am mentioning Kuva and Tenet weapons at the end even though you can get them as early as MR5 or so, because when an MR5 tries to do a Kuva lich, it usually does not end well. I would recommend waiting till at least MR8 or so before going for your first one. In fact, a properly modded Xikto at MR8 with a tanky Warframe can get the job done. As far as limited AoE shotguns go, Tenet Arcoplasmor covers the largest area. While it can't get headshot bonuses like Coda Basso and heavily suffers and isn't particularly viable at higher levels, it is still quite good in its own right, especially at lower levels where it can clear entire corridors of enemies with a few well-placed shots. You know how most shotguns have crippling fall-off multipliers forcing you to practically be in melee distance to use them, and how they quickly lose accuracy even if they have decent fall-off? Well, say hello to Dragoon. It has no fall-off and it is pretty accurate when charged. You could easily get headshots even from 40 meters away, not to mention the beauty of bouncing shots that can hit multiple enemies. I would say focus on the charged shots, but peppering enemies with a few quick shots isn't a bad idea either, though you will lose out on accuracy and will have to be way closer. Kuva Heck is the Heck variant with the highest single target damage. Before Steel Path, Vapor Heck performs better since it has twice the magazine size and more crit chance on fire rate, but after that Kuva Heck becomes a better option as Vapor starts to lack enough damage. Kuva Heck also has an alt fire which other variants don't. This allows for insane burst damage up close and is quite handy to have in some situations. Kuva Comb is a weird Kuva weapon. Sure, the increase in crit chance and status is nice and all, but how can you reduce the magazine size? Come on! And if your Kuva bonus is under 50%, you have a lower base damage than normal Comb. But the increase in fire rate comes to rescue, and Comb was already busted, so can't complain. Yet again, we have Sobek, the master of many builds. This is the baseline performance with no augments, and when compared with base Sobek, Kuva version has a smaller reload, higher crit stats and status, as well as way more base damage. So generally, it is just way better. And this is the clip delegation build. After the first reload, multi-shot and status chance go through the roof, and the enemies simply evaporate in front of it. And finally, we have the Acid Shell build. Same deal again, it converts enemy health into AoE damage. It's mostly blast damage with a smidge of corrosive, so don't expect much in terms of elemental bonuses, but it is super effective in high density missions, especially against unarmored units, as you will see shortly. You can find this entire list in the linked Google Doc, and once again, if you want to see the build for a weapon not included in the video, you can find it in the Discord server in the Shotgun Level 100 channel. And that's all I had for today. I'll be back soon with another video going over the updates I've done to the calculator, as there is quite a few. So I'll see you then, and bye bye!